We continue with economics A level, government intervention in product markets. Today, we want to talk about measures to protect suppliers and employees. We know suppliers, they supply goods and services, or services, and for employees, they are the workers within the organization. So, government intervene to also protect them from exploitation. So, we start with suppliers. For suppliers, here they wrote local sourcing of raw materials and components. Government can force firms to use minimum amount of raw materials and companies that are sourced locally. So government wants firms to use the largest possible raw materials from local sourced suppliers. If not, suppliers or firms or manufacturers would prefer to buy from abroad. So government wants to reduce importation of raw materials so that local suppliers will be able to make more revenue too. So that is one way in which government can protect suppliers. Do you get it or not? Local sourcing. So it simply means manufacturers should source their components and raw materials locally. The large quantities must be from the local suppliers. That's about suppliers. Is it clear?
Yeah.
They'll go to employees. Employment legislation to protect workers. A profit maximizing firm or profit maximizing employer will definitely want to reduce wage rate, definitely want to reduce wages of workers, would want to reduce the benefits as little as possible, we want to spend little in the workplace. Because for you to maximize profit, you have to reduce your cost as low as possible. So to do this, they might want to cut wages, they might want to reduce benefit for workers, they might want to, they might not even want to spend in the working environment. So that means government must intervene. Do you understand the point here? However, when you look at the market itself, the market employees might be able to protect themselves because the market can protect them. How can the market protect them? The market can protect them because employees might choose not to work for certain employers, especially employers that have poor reputation in terms of health and safety or wages or payments. Employees can choose not to work for them, but how long can employee do that? It's not going to be forever because potential employees need work to increase their income. So if you are saying no, if you're not going to choose this employer because of poor reputation, so how many of these employers do you want to reject? So definitely it is important for government to intervene. Do you understand the point I'm making here?
Yeah.
So government protection can be achieved. So I say in reality, it is long recognized that workers need government protection from employers. So employees, yes, the market can allow them to reject employers, but how long do they want to do that? So that is why government intervention is important. And government intervention will come through employment legislation. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So government protection can be achieved through one, legal protection. Legal protection becomes an extensive, it's extensive under the EU laws.
So,
I said, hold on first.
morning.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah.
So how will government protection be achieved? The first way in which government protection can be achieved is that with legal protection, which is extensive under EU law. So it simply means all firms in the European Union, they are expected to allow their employees to join the trade union. They are expected to pay minimum wage to their workers. The maximum hours that have to be spent at work must be noted. And also, workers, when workers are made redundant, they have to be paid. So these are ways in which government will protect employees. The second one is through the trade unions. Trade unions are groups that are created to protect the interest of workers. Yes or no? Good. So how can they be effective? They can only be effective if government provides them with a legal framework that allows them to operate. So with government providing them the legal framework for them to operate, it will allow them to protect their members. That's another way in which government can protect employees. Government cannot always be there, but allowing the trade union to have sufficient power or sufficient power to operate and influence decisions of employers, that can significantly help when they have to protect employees from at workplace. Do you understand the second point?
Yes.
And the third one is government encouraging firms to draw up codes of conduct related to employment practices. That is a problem. If government encourages firms to come up with their own code of conduct, what do you think they're going to do
They're gonna do the best for them.
for themselves? So that's the least way to protect employees, because whatever code of conduct employers draw up, it's going to be to their own favor. But these are the ways in which government can protect employees. One, legal protection. Two, trade unions. And three, encouraging firms to draw up their own code of conduct. The legal protection is the best because it means firms have to comply. If they are not complying, they will be punished. Do you understand? And for trade unions, this means workers are allowed to join the trade union. Yes, that is under the legal protection. But the point is, you might be allowed to join the trade union. If the trade union are not, if they are not effective, then it still means that employers will still, they will exploit employees. So for trade union to be effective, that means government have to provide them with a legal framework that allows them to operate under the law. And the last one is drawing up government or code of conduct. You know why government might want to do this? Government would not want to lose producers, you understand? So if government doesn't want to lose producers, they might encourage firms to draw up their own code of conduct. But the point about drawing up your own code of conduct is that you will draw it up, you will draw things that, that will be favorable to you. Any question about employment legislation to protect workers from exploitation?
No.
Okay, good. Other measures of protection of suppliers and employees is through barriers to entry of foreign firms. So government can force foreign firms willing to enter the domestic market to have a percentage of the firms owned by a local person or business. This reduces the ownership of foreign firms in the domestic market. This allows local business people or firms to benefit from the knowledge of foreign firms and may also be able to, have share of the profit put back to the local economy. So for barriers to entry of foreign firms will not just be allowed to storm the local market, because if they are allowed to storm the local market, it reduces the power, it reduces the ability of local businesses. So government would ensure that even if foreign firms want to come, large percentage of those foreign firms will be owned by the local people or local businesses. And by so doing, they'll be able to gain knowledge from the foreign businesses, and whatever profit they make will not be repatriated to the foreign countries.
Yeah.
So that means they will still be put back into the economy. And with that happening, expansion would occur within the economy, and more employees will get jobs.
Yeah.
I think it's clear. Any question about that?
No.
Another way to protect suppliers and employees is through restricting the monopoly power of firms. Suppliers of products, they might have issues when they have only one buyer of their product. Because when they have only one buyer of their product, it simply means the monopoly power over there. The buyer might decide to, might force the suppliers, to reduce prices for them. And that is exploitation of suppliers. Do you understand the point there? Do you understand what I'm saying, please? Some firms have monopoly powers. They are significant or perhaps the only buyer of products from suppliers. This allows them to exploit suppliers by forcing them to sell at a lower price. So to prevent exploitation, government can use the following ways. One, they can pass anti-monopoly laws. When we talk about anti-monopoly laws, we are talking about anti-competitive practices. So what does this mean? These are statutes designed to regulate and promote fair business competition by preventing businesses from acting in ways that excessively concentrate their market power. So government would come up with laws that would reduce the excesses of the monopolist, so that they won't be able to exploit suppliers. I think the first point is clear.
Yeah.
The second one is by appointing independent regulators, which can, when they appoint independent regulators, they have that power to force monopolists to change their ways of buying things. So with independent regulators, note, for these independent regulators, they must be neutral to the monopolist. If not, they won't be effective. They won't be able to carry out their job. How do you want to, how do you want to investigate your employer? Can you investigate your employer?
No.
No, good. So these independent investigators, they'll be able to carry out their job effectively if they are neutral to the monopsonist. Do you understand the second point here?
Yeah.
So they can encourage monopsonists to regulate themselves, drawing up a code of practice. That's the third way in which government can, reduce the excesses of monopsonists. But when government encourage them to draw up their own, excuse me, please. When government encourage monopsonists to draw up their own code of practices, what does that simply mean? It simply means they are self-regulating. Do you understand? And for self-regulating, it's monopsonists, what would they do? They will make up practices. They will draw up codes that would put suppliers into vulnerability. Do you get the point I'm making here? So I go, self-regulation is the least way of stopping monopsonists, as they can draw up code of practices which may allow them to continuously exploit suppliers. When you tell someone to draw up the ways things should be done in the market, they're going to do it to their own favor. So that means they will draw up codes of practices that will continuously allow them to exploit suppliers. Do you understand? We call them monopsonists because they are the only buyer of that product, and suppliers are vulnerable to them. So self-regulation is not a way to reduce their excesses. Is it clear?
Mhm.
Is it clear, please?
Yeah.
Good. Then we have nationalization, which is another way to reduce excess of monopsonies. But for nationalization, yes, the private sector or the private sector monopoly or monopolies, what they do is they want to maximize profit. And maximizing profit simply means they would want to charge higher prices, reduce output. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So the only way to solve it is to nationalize. Nationalization simply means taking over the private sector monopolies to become a public sector, right? But the problem about the public sector is that it brings about lack of competitiveness. And when there's lack of competitiveness, there's inefficiency. So inefficiency will be the problem of the nationalized monopolist. And if there's inefficiency, costs are expected to rise. If cost increases, prices will come back to become higher. So what is the problem they want to solve? The problem they are solving is creating another problem. Do you understand? Any question about nationalization?
Right.
Okay. So that takes us to the impact of government intervention in product market. Are you there?
Yeah.
Good. So go to the impact of government intervention. One of the impact of government intervention in the product market is one, is designed to lower prices for customers. So if government is intervening, government wants goods and services to become affordable for customers. That's the first impact of government intervention. The second one is reduce supernormal profit of firms. When firms make supernormal profit, what do? It simply means by making supernormal profit, the consumer surplus will be transferred to become producer surplus. That is what supernormal profit is about. So government would reduce this. The third one, increase productive, allocative, and dynamic efficiency. With government intervention, productive efficiency will be achieved, allocative efficiency will be achieved, dynamic efficiency will be achieved. All these will bring about increasing output and lowering prices for consumers. I think it's clear. And the next one is to increase quality of the product. When we talk about increasing quality of the product, we're simply talking about that market where quality is a question or quality is the problem. So with government intervention, through quality standards, then quality will be achieved. Remember what quality standard is? Drawing up, characteristic, drawing up, documenting features that a product must have in terms of consistency when you are giving quality into it, when you are putting quality into it. That is what quality standard is. And quality simply means what? Meeting customers' expectation. So these can only be achieved with government intervention. I think it's clear.
Yeah.
And the last one is that with government intervention, it increases customer choices, both for suppliers and the product. Why do we talk about suppliers? We are referring to suppliers here because of the monopsonist.
Yeah.
With the monopsonist, suppliers are restricted to only sell to one buyer. Do you understand? But government will draw up laws that would reduce the excesses of the monopolies, and that gives suppliers more choices to make. Do you understand? And for consumers, they will be able to buy for more from other suppliers because government is trying to ensure that the monopolist power is the monopoly power is reduced. Do you understand? So these are the impact of government intervention. However, government intervention in practice can be limited and ineffective based on the following reasons. The first one, the firms, especially the monopolist, they have significant market power. They have financial capability. And because of this financial capability, they might be able to influence government elected officials. Do you understand? And two, some regulators are paid by the firms. So if you are a regulator and you are trying to investigate your employer, will you be able to do that?
No.
So it simply means that we can as well stop paying you if you don't do things, if you don't, come up with investigation that is in our own favor. So these things limit the power of government intervention. Any question about that?
No.
So that takes us to the limitations or the limits to government intervention. So go to limits to government intervention. You said there's government intervention. And what are the reasons why government intervention might not be effective? One of the reasons is through regulatory capture, asymmetric information, inadequate resources, and lack of regulatory power. So we're going to start with regulatory capture. For regulatory capture, it is a corruption. It's a corruption of regulatory agency. So these regulatory agencies, they are being employed, to investigate the undoing of the firms, the illegal practices of the firms or the excesses of the firms, but they are unable to do it because they prioritize the interests of those firms than the interest of the public. That is regulatory capture. Get regulatory capture here. It simply means that regulators, instead of protecting the interests of the public, they rather protect the interest of who they are investigating, the industry or the firms. That is regulatory capture. And if that happens, there's bias. So that means they won't be able to, that means public interest is not going to be achievable. Do you get the first point here? Do you get it, please?
Yeah.
The second reason why we might have limitation in government intervention is through asymmetric information. Yes, the regulator, when we talk about asymmetric information, we're simply talking about information gap, yes or no? So for regulators, if they rely mostly on information from the firms, what do you think the firms will give out? They will give minimum unfavorable information, which means the regulators will have few information or minimum information to work with. So that would also affect their decision making. So here I wrote, the regulators may rely on information from the firm. This means the firm may release minimum information that are unfavorable to the regulator. So this means the regulator has less information than the firms, and so makes decisions which are more favorable to firms than if it had all the relevant information. So when you rely on information of a firm that you are investigating, yes, they will give you some favorable information, but the ones they're going to give you are the ones that is the minimum they're going to give to you. And that means you won't have access to most information that would allow you to make decisions that will be favorable to the society or to the consumers. Do you understand the second point?
Yeah.
So with asymmetric information, because regulators do not have relevant information, that would means monopolists or monopolists will still be able to exploit their customers or suppliers. Is it clear? The third reason why we might have inefficiency or ineffectiveness, or the third reason why there might be lack of effectiveness in government intervention is through inadequate resources. Governments are low budgeted. You know that. So insufficient resources are often given to regulators. So when you want them to regulate, you want them to to carry out investigation, but they don't have the resources to carry out this investigation. That means the investigation will not be a success, and they won't be able to achieve what is there to be achieved. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And the last one is lack of regulatory power. If regulators do not have, if they have limited powers to execute or to punish or fine the monopolist, then it simply means the monopolist will carry on with its anti-competitive practices. You tell them to carry out things. You give them that
Trust.
you trust them, you entrust them with certain duty, but you don't give them that authority to execute. Yeah, you have you delegated them authority, but you didn't give them that power. So you didn't give them the power to execute. So it simply means they won't be effective. And if they are not effective, it limits the government intervention. So regulators need sufficient power to execute monopolists if they do not comply. So this ends government intervention in the product market. Any question? Good.